Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and tonight I'm proud to bring you Living Theurgy with the awesome and living Theurgists that we've assembled to have this years-long conversation. We have Brandy Williams. Greetings, Brandy. Tony Mierzwicki. Greetings, Tony. And Apollonius, also known as John Opsopaus and Bruce McClellan. Greetings and welcome.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Hi, Hercules.
A lot has been going on, so I guess we'll start with everybody sharing a little bit about what's going on in their corner of the world. Brandy, is there anything you'd like to share?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I'm coming out of seclusion a little bit and connecting with my local community. So I haven't done anything really nationally, but I am connecting up with other organizers and helping to start organize things. So I'm involved in doing a spiral dance in Shelton, Washington in October,
Awesome.
which is going to be very, very cool. Yeah. So I'm really enjoying actually talking to people not on Zoom.
Awesome. And Tony, you're still half a planet away. How are things down under?
Things are surprisingly good. To be perfectly honest, I was dreading coming back to Sydney because I hadn't done anything with the community in over 20 years. But now that I've come back here, I'm actually doing more in Sydney than I ever did when I was living in Southern California. Virtually every weekend there's something on, and I've had a really good time. I got interviewed by a lady called Frances Billinghurst. She's an author. A few weeks ago, she uploaded that about a week ago, and I'm flying back next Friday, back home to America, and I will be talking at Sacred Harvest Festival.
Awesome.
The theme is Roots and Renewal. It should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Aunt Susan actually has like a little speaking gig there as well. So they had a woman who would do daily rituals to Hermes. She can't make it. So Susan put her hand up and she's going to be doing Liberesh. So in the morning, she'll be combining the sunrise and noon rituals. And in the evening, she'll be combining the sunset and the sunset and midnight rituals. So it would be really cool introducing a little bit of thelemic magic to the people there.
That sounds fantastic. It's great that you're doing that. And Apollonius, you were in Greece, and then you spoke at a gathering. Can you share a little bit of those adventures with us?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I was in Italy in May, where I, among other places, was in Florence and got to see well, a number of the sites, but especially this painting, which is reputed to include the face of George Gemistos Plethon.
Wow.
So that was kind of interesting. And yes, then I was in Greece in June, and for the first time in almost 30 years, I got to visit Eleusis and Delphi, and I climbed up Parnassus and visited the Corichian Cave, which is behind me here in the background, which has been a sacred site since Neolithic times, and it's really the source of an origin of the divination practices that later came down to Delphi. So that was kind of a pilgrimage for me it was a pilgrimage because it was very hot and it's a long way up to visit this cave. So I was really quite rewarding. And I visited Mycenae too. I saw the Lion's Gate and the so-called treasury of Atreus and some of the other sites. So yeah, I did a number of the spent a couple of weeks in Greece and visited a number of things, and sort of, like I said, I was in Greece 3 years ago, and but some of these places like Delphi I hadn't been for almost 30 years, 28 I think. And it was interesting because, when I was there 28 years ago, if I was with a small pagan group, and if you showed kind of, pagan tendencies, the guides and the archaeologists would get kind of hostile. And whereas now it was like at Eleusis, there were people doing group rituals, and there were people meditating all over the place, and there was just and our guide was kind of said she was initiating us into the Eleusinian mysteries, because we could all speak Greek, and it was much more of a sort of welcoming, and at the Carichian cave here, you probably can't see it very well. I think it's over on this side. But there was obviously signs of recent ritual activity up there. And I was told that, people go up there pretty regularly to meditate. And there was a large stone spiral, probably about 30 feet in diameter, on the floor of the cave, and, various offerings and things like that. So it was really, and I talked to a couple other people too, and they had a similar impression that, there seems to be more, I would just call it generally spiritual practice around the sacred sites of Greece than there was in the past. So that was very, very interesting to see that. And it's just an observation, and it in fact may be just maybe inaccurate, but that was my impression. And then just this past weekend, I was at Mystic South, which is held in Atlanta every year for the past 6 years. And it's a, broadly neo-pagan, witchcraft, whatever alternative spirituality type of conference, which is it's grown over the years, and it's really it's very good. It draws people from all over the United States, usually a few international people, and people that are not so well known, recent authors, other people that have been around for a while. And there's a series of academic papers. They have that's one thing that's a little bit unusual. They have a track of academic papers, and then the rest is all workshops. So typically there's 7 things going on at the same time, and a number of rituals, mostly in the evening, sometimes during the day as well. So it's held in a hotel and near Atlanta, and it's the hotel is very welcoming, and the facilities are very good. There's a lot of merchants. They take great pride in the vendors that they select to be able to vend at the conference. So it's all handcrafted materials, and it's very knowledgeable people in general. So it's a good place to pick up supplies or equipment that you might want, and books. So I did a book signing for my book on Plethone, and also gave a presentation about Plethone, and so that went well.
And as the years pass, you're looking more and more like a Greek philosopher.
Yeah, that's right. An ancient Greek philosopher. Yeah.
You're a bust or something of you.
Oh, I should also mention, that I've been teaching lately some courses for Magic U, and I'll be doing a class this coming Sunday on my latest book, which I self-published, called The Orphic Holodemiurgia. So
wow.
it's a practice that has some similarities. The first half, the descent, it has some similarities to the middle pillar ritual, and the second half, the ascent or anagoge, has some similarities to the star sapphire ritual, but it's drawn all from basically pre-Socratic Greek and Orphic sources rather than more recent stuff. So
Apollonius, for starters, congratulations on the new book. It sounds fascinating. I saw the write-ups on it, and I really want to get my hands on it. But I wanted to make one comment. You made me very happy when you talked about circumstance in Greece, because over the last few years, I've been reading about how the Greek Orthodox Church has a stranglehold on the country, and people have been driven out of sacred areas trying to do rituals. So the fact that the attitudes of officials have softened and they're letting people like us actually venerate the ancient deities is really fantastic. So thank you for giving us an update.
Yeah, I think, I don't want to claim it's a transformation, but it seems to be loosening up is the best I can say.
Wonderful news.
Yeah, I know the situation has been quite hostile toward pagans for many years in Greece.
Maybe 2000 years, Apollonius.
Maybe.
Wow. Yeah, yes, thank you. And I'm going to look on Amazon and see if I can acquire a copy as soon as I possibly can. Brandy, as always, is our muse and our inspiration, and she found an excellent topic for us to discuss tonight. So I'll pass the baton over to Brandy.
Yes, and I dropped a link in the chat. I looked up your book. You can look it up under John Opsopaus, those of you who are watching. So that brings it up. It's like the second thing that comes up. Apollonius, you publish, like, we should remember to ask you if you've done any books lately, because it seems like every single time you have like a new book. It's just you're prolific, and it's just astonishing, and I'm so glad to see it.
Well, thank you. I do have to sort of point out that a lot of these books are material I wrote years ago, and in fact, this ritual has been on the web. The first half, the descent, has been on the web since I think 1993, and the ascent part has been around too, but it wasn't out on the web. So it was partly people prodding me that to make it available that caused me to put it together. But yeah, most of it was already written, so I just had to kind of format it and edit it, and I'm not that prolific.
That's still a lot of work. Thank you.
That's online. You've left a legacy that's survived the decades and still exists today. So even if you're taking everything from there, you have several lifetimes worth of books to put together based on what you've done so far.
Well, that's
true.
something we may want to discuss sometime. Is, in some ways I feel like, of course, it's all kind of at the whim of Amazon too, but I feel like having these available in multiple print formats, it may have greater lasting power than, many other things on the internet. Internet sites, come and go. So it's something we need to think about, is how we can, in the future, preserve this material that we want to survive. Paper is, of course, great stuff. It survives a long time, especially in the right environment. But the internet has proved to be very ephemeral in some respects.
Yes.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that in making my estate planning and talking to my literary executor. And because I own a number of my own copyrights now, and I've self-published, I've been thinking about taking some of the books in several formats, like PDF in particular, and making them available on the big document repositories like Scribd. I don't know how you pronounce it, but so that it becomes available to people. And that's a really good topic for us to cover, for sure.
That definitely is a great topic. And before you start with today's topic, I'm going to be developing some new shows. One of them is going to be like a wider view at theurgy, by looking at different cultural adaptations or interpretations of theurgy. So I have several pagans who claim to practice theurgy. So we're going to look at the theurgy that they practice and just start there. It'll be like an extension of this show. And if you guys want to talk about anything on that show that we haven't covered or are not likely to cover here, you're welcome to bring it there, and we'll make it a topic there. And I know I've done this before for just about everybody, but I'd like to do it again. I'd like to do like a focus show on each of you. Have like a bigger picture of who you are, what you're all about, what you've done, what you're doing, what you plan to do, and what you'd like to see, and what you consider your legacy to be, and so on and so forth. So I'll throw those out there for consideration, and we'll talk about it some other time.
You know,
Yeah, and
Hercules,
good.
Hercules, I was just going to say, I've noticed a sea change over the last few years. When we first started doing this panel, very few people were into theurgy. They were just academics and some ceremonial magicians, and that was it. And now the term has virtually become mainstream. So many people are claiming to be into theurgy. It's
Yes.
wonderful. We've been on the cutting edge.
So let's continue to be on the cutting edge.
Yeah, Hercules remembers that he and I did a series of interviews that I called Witchcraft and Theurgy. So I just interviewed a bunch of witches and said, "Hey, do you do theurgy, and what does that look like?" And so it was really fun, and it was so many different perspectives. And then if you're broadening that, Hercules, I encourage you to find someone who is Hindu to talk to them about their practice, because
Sure.
Hindu practice is straight up theurgy. You're at home, you take your statue, you make offerings to the statue, you put a cloth on it, and then you chant, and then you take that stuff away, and the statue goes back to being a statue. It's amazing. The temples in India are still, the statues are animated, and hundreds and thousands of people visit them. It's like living theurgy. So it would be
Mhm.
really, really fun to connect with somebody, and you know a lot of people, so that'd be a fun thing to do.
Yes, it will be a fun thing to do. And how about we start by you introducing the topic, and then we'll start scheduling people to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not myself Indian. I would really prefer somebody Indian to like kick that conversation off. Um,
Understood and respected.
yeah, yeah.
So today's topic, and Brandy sent us a wonderful note about a ritual. And can you explain the topic in greater depth?
Sure. I was looking at I've been talking to people about how they relate to deity, and I'm sort of discovering that there's a bit of a reluctance to enter into a relationship with deity, because it seems that people feel like they have to pay something for that. It's transactional. So I immediately thought about Brian Schaefer's book, Temples of Ancient Egypt, and he has a really good description of ways that deity was approached in the Egyptian temple complexes. So the temples, we were just talking about animated statues. The temples in Egypt and Mesopotamia and Greece to some extent had statues that deity had been invoked into, great huge temples, right? And very large infrastructures of priesthood, clergy, priests and priestesses, who would come each day and make offerings of food, and sweep the temple and make offerings of clothing, and then they'd put the food out, and after a period of time come and get the food back and then go distribute it to the temple personnel. And so there was this idea that the deity would come and take something from the food, and then and it's something intangible, and then leave something in the food that the people could then go and eat. And we were just talking about how this is true in India at Kamakya Temple. There is Kamakya Temple in Assam, is a place where animal sacrifice is still practiced. Most of the country doesn't, but this temple does. Chickens and goats and buffalo. I mean, they go for it, and this is a source of meat for the temple family. So they take the heads and they offer it to the deity, and then the whole rest of the animal goes and gets processed in the kitchens, and gets given to the temple people. So it's a sustenance for them, right? And this happened in ancient Egypt, right? So there's this idea that people come and they make offerings. And Brian Schaefer had a way to describe this. He calls this dout des. This is an academic term that you see a lot. It means basically, I give you something, you give me back something. And the way he describes it is, it is the petition of the king in all of Egypt, for the gods' ongoing future gifts of life and order. I give so that you may continue to give. So that's a lot of the kind of theurgy that we see in the home statues, and people do this today. Pagans do too. But there's another way of approaching this, right? There, Do Ut Des is not the only possibility, there is also do quia dedisti, I give because you have given. And the way I'm describing it to people is I say, the deities are really the cosmos. They're ways we understand how the cosmos is working. And that's happening whether we exchange or not. That there are gifts that are given, and gifts that are given that we can't repay. The gift of life, for example. So we say, do quio dedisti, I give because you have given. We say thank you. And so it's possible to enter into a relationship with the deity, and instead of like pledging like yeah, I will do something for every day for a year, or I will do something on the same day for 7 years, making contracts, you can say thank you. And I wanted to kind of explore those ideas. How do we enter into relationship with deity, and how do we understand that flow of blessings and our response to it? So that's my topic.
And that is a phenomenal topic. And before we move on, I'm just going to add my 2 cents to that. I have also noticed that a lot of people's interactions with the deities is transactional, and certain types of magicians, especially, it's quid pro quo. Their interactions with the gods. They do this, the gods do that. It's like a contractual type of thing, and as long as you keep to what you promised, you will get what was promised. My relationships with the gods is kind of like familial. So I don't enter contracts with my father, let's say, when he was alive, or with my relatives. We do things because they're part of my family and we love each other. And if we could help each other out, that's a great thing. So that's how I tend to view it. Every single inch that's a flat surface in our dwelling, and we live in a house, is full of gods. So we're overflowing with gods. And they get generally attended to by keeping their areas clean. My wife rearranges them every now and then. So, it's part of, we live in a house full of gods. So that's how I see it. And it isn't anything formal, it's just informal. Just like it would be with a family member or a close friend. Because you love each other and you have a relationship, then that's the exchange. You just do things because that's what you do. Tony.
Before we move on, I've got a quick question for Brandy. I'm staying in Sydney with two friends of mine, Zim and Bree, and they had left out a number of offerings. And the attitude towards offerings tends to vary. Some people will leave them out and then let the deity consume the astral portion of the offering. And then after a certain period of time, they will then eat those things or give them to someone else. Some people compost the stuff. And Brandy, I noticed that you talked about one particular village where they would offer the head of an animal and then give the rest of the body to the people who were there. So, because meat spoils pretty quickly. So I was just wondering, if you do leave something out and then you want to consume it, what is the proper time period during which you should like leave it out? Is it a day, 2 days, a week?
I think that that's a really great question. And I personally wouldn't eat anything that had been left out for longer than a day.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and there's that the Hellenic understanding that not all offerings are also consumed. There's the idea of the burnt offering. You burn
Yes, the
it, and
Holocaust. Yeah.
yeah. So you don't yourself consume it. It all went to the deity. So I think that that's an important like possibility as well. But in terms of the of offerings, in just in general, in India, there's that's a really good place to look because they're doing a lot of this stuff, and it's a quick turnover. Like you give something, and then the temple gives you food, and you consume it right there. So I think that if it's left out for a day, I will take it to the woods myself.
Okay. Okay. So to like Hercules wanted me to put in my 2 cents worth. I wanted to refer people to the very beginning of Homer's Iliad, where we have Chryses, who's a priest of Apollon, calling on calling on Apollo for vengeance. So he says, "Hear me, O god of the silver bow, that protectest cities and holy Scylla and rulest Tenedos with thy might. Hear me, O thou of Smintha." Okay, so there's a title, and then you've got the request. If I have ever decked your temple with garlands or burnt your thigh bones in fat, of bulls or goats, grant my prayer, and let your arrows avenge these, my tears upon the Danans. So the Danans refers to the invading Greeks. So obviously, if you're calling on a particular god, you have to call on the god to perform something that is within the range of their abilities. So they're calling on Apollo of Smintha, who was like thought of as a mouse god, hence ruled over plagues and pestilence. So he was calling on Apollo to bring plague and pestilence upon the Greeks. But the point is, if you take a step away from it, you've basically got a high priest of Apollo performing gratitude workings. He's making offerings to Apollo, and I think it's really important to do gratitude workings. And then, if many months in the future you find yourself in need of Apollo's help or whatever god you're particularly you're focusing on, then you can turn around and ask that god, because the ancient Greek religion was all about reciprocity. And you'll find this coming up time and time again in literature, where people will call on a god, remind the god of all the sacrifices they've made, and if they feel that the sacrifices that they've made have not been enough, then they make a promise to perform even more sacrifices, so long as the god gives them what they want. So I think it's all about, you have to be mindful of the idea of reciprocity, and you also have to be mindful of the importance of doing gratitude workings, because, like, even though it's a good idea, it actually builds up a store of goodwill with the particular deity that you're working with. So then you can call on that deity sometime in the future. I don't know how well that answers your question, but that was kind of that seemed to be the most appropriate answer to what you wrote to us before the panel.
Well, like it with our book, everyone's going to have a different answer. I like the fact that, we're looking at it from different perspectives and different thoughts, and we're sharing what we do or what we believe should be done. And there's great value in that, because the people listening to this are going to be standing in different places also. So they're going to get something different from what everybody says. So thank you. That was great.
Um, Hercules, I totally agree with you, because if people want to get into theurgy, they're going to have 7 approaches.
Right.
So someone may look at the way I'm doing it and say, no, too much reliance on ancient texts. They might think the same thing about what Apollonius is doing, but they might look at what you're doing and think, this is what I want to do. They follow in your footsteps. So we're giving people 7 different approaches to theurgy, and I think it's going to be a very valuable text when it's finished.
And then when they go down the path, after they've done it for a while, like with exercise or anything else, they'll find their own way, find what works.
Exactly. Exactly. Like we all had to.
Hmm. Thank you, Tony. Apollonius?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, and one that's I've thought about for a while. So, of course, we all remember the myth about the first sacrifice, right? When Prometheus tricked Zeus by wrapping the thigh bones in fat, and Zeus picked those rather than the nourishing meat. So that justified giving to the gods the non-nourishing parts of the sacrifice and keeping the meat for the people, for the humans. And also recognizing that the gods really don't need food at all. And in other cases, it was said, well, it's not the food that either that gets burned or left on the altar. It's the smoke rising. It's the from the burning food, and because that was more spiritual. But I mean, these are all things I think to justify the fact that really what's going on, at least in a classical Greek sacrifice, is a communal meal. And this comes back to what you said, Hercules, about familial relationships. It's essentially akin to everyone sitting down around the family table and sharing a meal. Um, and different people have different preferences about what they like to eat or can eat. And what was adopted in ancient Greece was basically the inedible parts went to the gods, and the edible parts went to the human beings who needed to eat them. And so, this is, what I do just as a matter of household practice too. I always make an offering before a meal, um, and to usually to Agathos Daimon or to all of the gods, and of a little bit of the food, and this of course raises the issue about, okay, what do you do with the food that you give to the gods? Well, I'll come back to that. um, but I think if you view it as a communal meal, then what do? Well, you serve the guests, the honored guests, they get served first, and then you share the meal with them. So I think this is, it's very much in line with dead suppers and things like that many people practice, um, where you put out a plate for the dead ancestors. So I would not normally go so far as to put out a plate for the gods, but I would just make a small offering, usually a little bit of each of the things I'm eating. Now I'm just talking about, sort of just typical daily ritual household practice, not, special occasions of any sort. And the one thing that I found very worthwhile, one viewpoint, comes from a book. I just pulled it off my shelf. It's a nice little book. I don't know if you can see it. Um, it's called Greek Religious Thought from 1950, and it's a collection of writings by the ancient Greek philosophers, playwrights, everybody about Greek religion. And there's a companion volume called Later Greek Religious Thought, and it's just got a lot of good material. You can see that the Greeks were all over the place, right? In terms of their attitude about relationship with the gods, who the gods were, what they were, and their relationship with them. But one of the things, and I don't remember who said it, and I don't have time right now to look it up, but one of the philosophers, in a broad sense, said, um, in addressing the question about, well, should the sacrifice be, how big should it be? How much should it be? Is a rich sacrifice better than a poor sacrifice? And what he said was, it's not the sacrifice itself that matters, it's the remembering. So the fact that you remember to do the sacrifice, that's what's reconnecting you with the deities. Again, at least from a Neoplatonic viewpoint, the gods are eternal. They're outside of space and time. You can't really influence them. But what you can do is bring yourself into greater harmony with them. And so the remembering is one part of that. Just remembering, oh yeah, there's gods, they're in control. We should be thankful for everything we have from them. We should, appeal to them for help, but don't forget them. And that's really the most important part of any sort of sacrifice or religious ritual. Now, as Brandy pointed out, in the ancient temples, they would accumulate a huge amount of stuff. People would make offerings, of course, the meat offerings, cake offerings, pour wine and oil, on the altar and on statues, donate, their fishing gear if they had a good, catch, their armor if they were preserved in war, all sorts of thanks offerings. The whole hillside of Delphi is covered with the treasuries of the different cities where they stored all of the stuff that they had dedicated to Apollo. Um, and so it was part of normal temple maintenance to clear this stuff out periodically. So that was just part of what was done. And, all sorts of stuff was done with it. It might be, if it was metal, it might be melted down again. If it was valuable stuff, or it might be kept in a treasury. The food stuff and stuff like that, and any stuff that might decay would just be cleaned out, and that was just considered a normal part of it. So that was not disrespectful. The gods had got what they need from it, which is maybe just our recognition and remembrance, and it was no longer needed to serve that purpose. Although some things, again, you might want to keep around to remind people, oh, this was, the armor that was dedicated when so and so survived, a battle against the Persians or something, um, um, or when a city was saved from a plague or whatever it might be. So I think if we keep that in mind, then we can try and find sort of practical ways of dealing with these things in our own circumstances, because most of us don't have a hearth we can burn this stuff on, which would be a good way. We don't have dirt floors that we can pour the wine on. And I know a lot of people find it a little bit disrespectful to pour stuff down the drain or put it in the trash. I don't know. I do that often, and I think about it. And you can, of course, ask the gods permission or forgiveness, or and this is one thing that theurgy allows us to do, is ask the gods, how do you want me to dispose of this stuff? What sort of sacrifice do you want? Do you like incense? What incense? Food offerings? What is it you like? And I think this is something we especially have to do nowadays, because we're living in a very different environment than the ancient Greeks were. So I think, to try and come back to the question a little bit, it is the remembering. And so it does work both ways. And I know when I sort of my just kind of daily prayers, I thank the gods for what they've done in the past. I acknowledge them now in the present, and then I ask for their blessings or their aid or their assistance in the future. So past, present, and future. And so part of the typical structure of an ancient Greek prayer is, even if you're asking for something in the future, you recall similar instances either in your life or in mythology or in history, when that god has helped out other people, especially helped them in similar ways. So, with a medical condition, you might recall situations where in the past you prayed to the god or sacrificed to the god, and they alleviated a condition. Or again, in mythology, where that, especially if it's Asclepius, for example, where he had healed people in the past. And it's, you phrase it as though you're reminding the god, oh, remember, have been working with this prayer to Hermes, Thoth, and you remind Thoth about, oh, you remember how you helped Isis? Well, help me too. Okay. Same thing, a lot easier. But, again, are you changing? Are you really reminding the god? Well, no, the god doesn't have a bad memory. What you're mostly doing is reminding yourself that in mythology, Thoth helped Isis. Okay, and so that's one aspect of this god, and you're connecting with that aspect of the god, and in that way, bringing that aspect of the god more into your life, which would perhaps help you with his assistance, whatever it might be. It's not health in that particular spell, but whatever it is. So I think, we often act as though we're influencing the gods, or bribing them, and things like that. But that's really ways of engaging our minds by using relationships we understand, like you talked about, Hercules, about the familial relationship. But even the sort of contractual relationship, that is a way we deal with other people too, right? We go to the doctor, we pay them for healing us, you know, or
Fine.
yeah. Um, and so I think because we're human beings, and these are some of the ways we deal with other sentient beings, with other humans especially, um, um, it's a way we understand for dealing with these other powers. And so it's more for our benefit that we do these things than certainly for the gods' benefit. And this is kind of really comes out of the Neoplatonic understanding of prayer and sacrifice. Um, they also, you know, the Neoplatonists, um, um, and I'm just trying to remember who this might be, Simplicius probably, uh, talks about, you know, that different kinds of prayer are suitable for people at different stages of spiritual development. And, you know, at sort of a people that are kind of embedded in the material world and maybe are not much in touch with the spiritual world, well, material sacrifices, you know, like sacrificing an animal, of course, in the ancient world, or other food sacrifice of other foodstuffs or other physical materials is very appropriate. It's something they understand, and it kind of works well, especially for the daimons that they're mostly interacting with. For people that are a little more in touch with the spiritual world, and more spiritual sacrifices, such as singing hymns or songs or chants, or prayers might be more appropriate. For ones that are at a higher level of spiritual practice, it might be more a wordless contemplation, a kind of meditation, for example. So there's degrees, and these are really degrees of theurgy too, uh, because sacrifice is a kind of theurgy. It's just tends to use symbols more explicitly than some of these other techniques. So you know, I think in answering many of these questions, if we come back to the idea that the purpose is to change us, in particular by putting us into more intimate contact with the gods, then we can kind of figure out some of the more specific questions and how best to deal with them. You know, like with disposing of the sacrifices, what feels good to us? Does it feel respectful or disrespectful? If it feels disrespectful, then you probably shouldn't do it. You know, if you honestly feel that it's respectful, well, then I think it's probably okay. But you could always, you know, ask the gods and you know, um, work on it, you know, change it if necessary. So I don't know. I kind of rambled on about this.
No, you covered, like always, you covered a phenomenal bit of territory, um, with the prayer and things like that. I found that if I ask questions, I'll get answers either through synchronicities or dreams.
Hmm.
I might be very stubborn because once it's synchronicity, the dream starts to happen over and over and over again till it's clear that okay, I got it. What I always found useful in my interactions with the divine is I'll do something in a particular god's sphere, not because you know, like I wasn't asked by Artemis to help out with some things in her spheres that needed to be done where I was. But when I was in Pennsylvania, I helped out with young mothers who were on public assistance, who, you know, were needed vocational skills to help support their families. So I worked with my knowledge on vocational rehabilitation and created programs for them in structures like high schools and local government offices and things like that. Then when I came to New Jersey, especially western New Jersey, where there's a lot of bear and deer and stuff like that, I got involved with organizations that protect bear and deer, both of which are sacred to, you know, to Artemis. So I don't know if indirectly I got something from doing that, but it was, you know, it was an Artemis sphere needed to be done. So I just did it because I happened, you know, to be there. And I know with a lot of my decisions in terms of what I do, like they'll have to do with health, you know, optimal wellness, because it's a Herculean sphere. Vocational rehabilitation, you're making vocational choices. That's a Herculean sphere. Heroic endeavor, that's a Herculean sphere. So I try to structure my activities so that I help out, while I'm here and working in various spheres. When I was doing stuff with elections, it was Athena. Athena is the goddess of the polis and, politiki. Good politiki comes under her umbrella. So I helped with elections. I served on committees. I headed committees. I, got elected to councils and things like that. So now I can't do that much anymore. So I had to slowly let that go and figure out a new way to honor Athena through my participation in society. So I always found that those type of things are helpful to me in in my relationship with the divine.
I think that's the real value of polytheistic religions too, is it helps us to focus in that way.
Yes, definitely. Wow, Brandy, we come full circle. Is there anything you'd like to ask anybody or anything like that? This was amazing.
Oh, that was wonderful. And thank you, Apollonius. That was a very in-depth and very important set of ideas. And you mentioned something in passing that you were working with Hermes Toth, and you had sent me a paper. And I wonder if we can send it to everyone and talk about it next time, because it's a wonderful paper. It's PGM 8. So y'all can go look up your PGM 8.
Lines 1 to 63, the first 63 lines. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a very exciting set of ideas, because what the magician does is say, okay, I'm going to identify myself with Hermes Toth, and there are two things. I'm going to go to the four quarters, the four quarters of the universe, and I'm going to have a secret name of deity of Hermes at each of the four quarters. And Apollonius, you had said we don't know what those are, and I'm like, it's unverifiable personal gnosis. It's an ancient example of UPG, right? So
Yeah.
we don't know that for sure. And then
Well,
also,
it may be. I mean, it could be Egyptian. I mean, and I don't know Egyptian, but it could be Egyptian transcribed into Greek, and that's something that's worth investigating. But nobody else has, if it is, nobody else has discovered yet what it means. But
has nailed it down, yeah.
yeah,
And then the other thing they put at the quarters was animals identified with that deity. And I thought, this is not just for Hermes Toth, but this could be like a template for working with any of the say at least Olympian deities or Greek deities. That would be really fun.
yeah,
So I thought that would be a fun. There's a whole lot of ideas that come off of that. So maybe we can park that and talk about that next time.
yeah, that'd be great.
And right now I'm not on Facebook, so the 30-something thousand people that I connected with are gone, evaporated, and I haven't really set up a new online community yet. But I really would like to constantly put up links to your publishing endeavors and to your published endeavors and to your talks that you give and to the organizations that you are active in, just so people can have easy access to it, because you're all doing wonderful things that are very important and need to be done. And if we're going to raise awareness about theurgy, we need to raise awareness about theurgists. And because everybody here is an excellent example of what theurgists are and what they should be.
So Hercules, are you going to make a new Facebook page then?
No, Facebook started like telling me there were problems with my signing in, and I've had the same computer forever, and this happened 10 years ago.
Okay.
And it took a year to get back on. This time they wanted me to send them pictures of my head from the different angles. Then they wanted me to send a picture of my head shaking, a moving picture. Then they wanted me also to take my telephone and use their messenger service for my telephone. So I tried that twice, like a long time ago, and it jammed up my phone, it jammed up my computer. So I told them no. And I'm not sending you pictures of my head from various angles. So that was it. So I wasn't able to get back on.
Okay.
So I don't know why they would want that, but given the fact that everything's becoming AI and people are telling me that there are already fake Hercules Invictuses on Facebook, and they've sent me descriptions of what the people are doing. So I don't know.
Good luck.
They say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So the fact that there are all these other clone Hercules Invictuses out there, I think that's quite flattering.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, it's all dust in the wind, that's the way I look at it. Thousands of my TV shows have become erased or lost over the year. Thousands of my podcasts, you know, they reached the people they needed to reach. They connected people who needed to be connected. I believe they could all be recovered on the astral plane with some internet archives if, you know, someone was really ambitious enough. So, you know, we do what we can, and we have what we have. It's not going to last forever. Something might wipe out the web tomorrow, and then, you know, what happens to all of this? We have to come up with different ways of connecting. That's not a good note to end today's.
Not cheerful note, yeah.
So, what is new and exciting in the month to come, Brandy?
Uh, gee, well, Lunasator Lammas is coming up, so I plan to go to the top of a mountain because that's sort of one of the ways that I celebrate that. So I'm finding a local mountain to go look down on, and that might tangentially kind of connect up to the theme that we're all talking from Mount Olympus.
Awesome. Tony, anything new and exciting happening in the month ahead?
As I mentioned before, the only really exciting thing that I have happening is in early August, Sacred Harvest Festival. Um, Not much else apart from that. I'm not as active as some of the other people on the panel.
Okay, but that's great stuff you're doing.
Thank you.
And Apollonius, the philosopher.
Well, maybe doing some philosophy. As I mentioned, I'm going to be teaching the Orphic Holo Demiurgia in a few days, and not too much else. I'll probably teach a couple other courses for Magic U, based on some of the stuff I've done before. But yeah, I've kind of most of my travel and you know, attending at meetings and stuff like that has been pretty much done in the spring, and so I'll be staying home probably most of the summer and just contemplating. But we'll see. Things come up. Things come
You're
up.
prolific too, and so next time we talk, you'll have another book or two to share with us as well.
I am thinking about what should be next, as a matter of fact, but no firm plans.
But something will exist in our world. You'll have materialized it when we get back together. I will be. Everyone has riddles that they're born with, and I've had riddles that I'm born with too. Like I knew certain things when I was born that I shouldn't have known because there wasn't enough written about it. Now that there is, if you know where to find it, I had access to all this information that I guess I didn't get the normal way. So I'm trying to explore this information, and I found where there's information on it, like in Nanas. There's a lot of information in Nanas's books, the THEURGY, that has a totally different interpretation of Hercules. Hercules Astrochiton, or the star-clad Hercules translated, and it parallels with really obscure theosophical doctrines about Hercules. So I seem to have been born with tons of knowledge about these really obscure things. So I figure I'm going to spend whatever time I have not focusing on other things I need to focus on. I'm focusing on this, and I'm going to do something about it. And I asked the universe, I thought I'd quietly retire and just do things, you know, quietly. Then the universe gave me a series of dreams, one of which I've gotten every time I did something really big and splashy. So before I did the Thor the Barbarian thing, where it led to TV shows and all sorts of appearances and stuff like that, I had this dream. I had this dream before I went public with being Hercules Invictus. So now I had this dream again. So I don't know what form it'll finally take. I doubt if I'll be using a different name, because I changed my name legally to Hercules Invictus. So that's my name for the rest of this incarnation. But I'm not going to be retiring quietly. So to be continued. Thank you to all of you. Before we go, if you can kindly share how people can find you and enter your world, that would be fantastic. Brandy, how can people enter your world and be amazed?
BrandyWilliamsAuthor.com, Brandy Williams Author on Facebook and Instagram, and my Pathos blog, Star and Snake.
Very awesome. If you want to do any more theurgy and witchcraft, whenever, whatever schedule you have, and how often or unoften you want to do it. That was an excellent show. So I leave that in the realm of possibilities.
Yep.
Tony, how can people find you and enter your wonderful world?
Facebook is probably the easiest way. I have a blog through Patheos, which I've been neglecting over the last couple of months. And I also have a podcast, the Zeus and Hero Show, which I've been doing with Susan. But again, it's been really difficult to do anything while we've been in Sydney. So now that I'm coming back in a week, I hope to get back on track and get things moving again.
It's an excellent podcast and I highly recommend it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Apollonius, you who do so many things that we can't keep track of them. How can people enter your world?
Well, probably the best way is my website, opsopaus.com. That's opsopaus.com, where I have information about my books and my website and so forth. And you can email me through that website. I'm also on Facebook as John Opsopaus.
Thank you so very much. And we've done a focus on you a couple of times. I'd like to do an up-to-date one where you're like a pie of many slices. So we've looked at certain slices. Now let's look at some other slices because you're very complex and multifaceted. So let's start focusing on all of these facets.
Happy to. Thank you.
Thank you. You're all a blessing to me, and I really look forward to this conversation. You're all inside my heart, and I didn't really pray to know you, but I'm glad that the gods have connected us, and I wish you all well.
Thank you, Hercules.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Hercules. We wish you all the best too.
Yes.
Thank you. Good night.